Faye. You were here. Are you here? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Hey, Kristen.
Are you guys all set?
Hey there.
I just got off the producer for the video you gave happy birthday wishes for. I got off the phone with her.
Oh, nice.
All right, are you guys ready to go live?
Sure.
All right. Great. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. I will also note, for those who have not been on this meeting before, that the view of this meeting for the general public, so those who are watching either on a live stream or watching it later, it is what we keep referring to as Brady Bunch style. So it is, we can see if your camera is on, most likely you are on screen for everyone to see. I just like to put that out there for everyone so that they know kind of what they're signing up for. And with that, I hand it to the chair, Jerry.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. And good evening, everyone. And this is the monthly meeting of the Disability Commission Advisory Board for the city. It's going to be a little bit difficult for me to start introductions, but I will do my best. Yardley, why don't we go ahead with you with introductions?
Hello, everyone. Yes. Well, I'm Yardley Sanchez. I work for the Health and Human Services Cabinet in Texas, and I'm a board member that resides in Dorchester.
Who else would like to introduce themselves?
This is Carl Richardson from Brighton.
Kyle Robidoux from Roxbury.
Elizabeth, I believe you're muted currently.
Elizabeth Jean Clower, Back Bay. Is that, was,
Yeah. Go ahead,
Hello?
Paul.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Paul Karen, I work for the BPDA. I represent West End Beacon Hill area.
Great. Zari, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Zari from South Boston.
And Juan, go ahead. Is Juan still on? Do we see?
He is. Unfortunately, Juan, we can't hear you. I think Juan may have to, oh, he'll reconnect. All right.
Okay. Wesley, go ahead.
Hold on one moment, Wes.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm on my iPad. It's me. It's Wesley Ireland.
Great.
And I live in the North End.
And Juan, are you not muted at this point? Any idea what's,
He doesn't think he's muted, but we are not able to hear you. So do we want to move on to Olivia? Did you introduce yourself?
sure, go ahead, Olivia.
I am Olivia Richard, and I am a board member from.
Great, and Juan is going to reconnect so that he can introduce himself at a later point. But I'm Jerry Boyd, I'm the chair of the advisory board, and I am from West Roxbury.
I think we missed Ducia.
Oh, and Ducia, I'm sorry.
Oh. That's all right. I just reconnected. Yeah, so hello, everybody. My name is Ducia Lebovskaya, or Ducia L for short. And I live in Boston, Mission Hill specifically, and I'm a board member. Thank you.
Great. And we will move on. The next item on the agenda was the approval of the May and June minutes. However, I was informed before the meeting that they're not available, so we'll have 3 months of meeting minutes to approve at our August meeting. And I'm sure we will all be waiting with bated breath for that. And now, without further ado, we're going to hear about the reopening from a couple of areas in health and human services for the city. First up will be Will Morales, Commissioner of Boston, the Boston Commission for Children, Youth, and Families. Go ahead, Will.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm glad to be here and see all you once again. I know I've been at previous meetings before and reported back on things that Boston Center's Youth and Families is doing, especially in partnership that we do with Christian McCosh and her team there in our spaces. We would love to say that BCYF is reopening, but actually BCYF has been open since day one. We've just had to sort of reinvent ourselves. Since day one of COVID, we've been actually feeding families and working really closely with Yardley and the Office of Food Access, making sure that our facilities doors were open and that our staff were there to ensure that individuals who were seeking a meal got a meal every time. That evolved into now understanding that there were also families that were homebound. We had seniors, we had individuals of various abilities and disabilities who couldn't make their way to our doors. And so we mobilized our fleet, we mobilized our team, and we began to deliver food constantly to families throughout this whole process. And through the whole time, waiting for what the state might allow us to do or not do within our spaces. This year has been an extreme struggle for BCYF because unlike other departments, we are not a behind-the-counter kind of transactional department, right? You're not coming in to get a permit. You're not coming in to get a birth certificate. You're not coming in to pay an excise tax. What we do, we have to touch lives in order to change lives because we are a transformational organization. So for our staff who have been working here forever, finding our hallways, our spaces empty is more creepy to them than actually dealing with this COVID-19 virus. The fact that they can't engage the families that they were so used to serving has been really, really tough on everyone. And I gotta commend them because since day one, they had fears like everyone else. No one knew what this thing was, but they showed up every day with a smile on their face, knowing that when those families came through that door, they were gonna get served the way they usually have come accustomed to. And so, part of our sort of phase of reopening as things began to open up during phase 2, one of the things that we had to struggle with was to determine what can we actually do in our buildings during this sort of climate of COVID. So right now, what's happening in our facilities is that we're actually keeping our focus during phase during this phase to be youth focused first. Understanding that parents are now kind of returning back to work, and they return back to work with an anxiety, a fear, not knowing, going back to a workspace that looks different, going back to a workplace and where the procedures are different and where they're screening now and where they themselves now have to hold themselves accountable and unable to shake a coworker's hand or unable to give them a smile because it's hidden behind a mask. We wanted to make sure that as both parents needed to get back to work, they also needed a place for their children to go so that they themselves are able to get through their workday with a little less anxiety. So our staff has been working, was working countless hours over the month of June because we only got the state guidelines on June 1st. And we were gonna operate programs on July 6th. So you can imagine that we were going around the clock, even on weekends, trying to put the proper protocols and procedures in place that would allow us to run strong programs, but at the same time have safeguards to ensure that everyone will be safe in our spaces. So right now, currently, what we've been doing is that we've been running a sort of hybrid model of both virtual programming along with in-person programming. A lot of our in-person programming is really catered to children between the ages of 6 to 12 years of age in our facilities. And so parents are able to look up at our website and see a menu, a registration menu of various activities that they can sign up their children in that have everything from art to skills and drills because they can't play competitive sports, to some focused discussions or one-time kind of classes that happen online to engage our young people. At the same time, they are supporting the Department of Youth Employment and Engagement with reaching their youth hire numbers. They have over 8,000 jobs that they have to try to fill. BCYF extended ourselves to pass our usual 500 mark, and we're going to be serving over 625 young people who are going to be working in our spaces. Some of them are going to be helping us facilitate some of the classes that we have with the younger children, and others are going to be doing stuff homebound. And we're even thinking about figuring out a way on how we might be able to have those young people think about doing a lifeguard training program because we're always short in lifeguards. So we thought that this might be a great opportunity to do sort of a pipeline to future lifeguards that we might be able to have access to. And so we are constantly reinventing ourselves because this is a whole new world, you know, and this year we had to make a tough call and we worked with Commissioner McCosh. You know, one of the things that was really hard this year is that we have Camp Joy, you know, a camp that has been here forever, but the reality of the state guidelines and some of the pieces that they put there and the timing of what we got made it really impossible for us to think about how can we actually run this program and keep everyone safe. And one of the biggest things that was very surprising is that we normally have over 300 kids who sign up to this program. This year we only had 9. Part of what, when we were communicating back to parents felt that this is so new to them and this is so scary to them that this year they want to be able to just basically pull their kids back for this 1 year. That it has nothing to do with us. They know that under a normal setting, their kids will get the best care, the best experience. But the reality is that was so unknown to them that this year they really wanted to make sure that safety was the first priority for their families. And so it was really good that it wasn't something that we made a decision and parents felt that they were missing out. But at the same time, they were also understanding that, you know, this needed a real big team approach because the more we can stop individuals from gathering and so forth, at that time, we were going to stop the curve. We're going to stop the curve from rising and begin to have it de-escalate. But it doesn't mean that we haven't been keeping in touch with the children and the families of the Camp Joy program. Roberto Smalls, who's been the longtime director of the program, has got a small team. There is a constant communication There's email blasts going out about activities that can happen at home and so forth. Because what we're hoping for is that if we keep our fingers crossed, hopefully at the beginning of next year, as more of these sanctions are eased and more opportunities to open up, we want to look at how we might be able to look at what our year-round programming is around Camp Joy and the programs we do there. But we do miss a lot of individuals who use our space. It's not only those who are able and disabled, it's also our senior population who's not here, and that's a big void too, as well, as they are the most vulnerable population. But we're doing what we can do best, and that's working also with Commissioner Shea and her team about how do we continue to keep that consistent contact with our senior population, because isolation is a big thing for them, right? Where we can all now feel the effects of isolation at our young age. Seniors have to deal with it all the time, and if it's further magnified by this situation, know that we have to do more. And now in phase 3, I know that I reached out recently to Commissioner Shea about what is the fall looking like, what can we do, how can we connect, how can we re-engage that population, because under this population, there's opportunities for educational opportunities that can happen in our spaces, and we're looking at doing the same similar model. What can happen virtual, what can happen in person, or what can we do to make sure that we can provide an opportunity for our seniors to be much more socially engaged. And I had staff here talking about, let's do smartphone classes, because a lot of them get it from their children, but their children don't bother to take the time to educate them on how to use them. And if they learn how to use FaceTime, if they knew how to use the Google Hangouts, it can mean the world to them because it gets them even more connected. So there's ideas already floating about how do we do that. But we want to do our part and do our best so that we can hopefully be able to make sure that we can eliminate this threat and have our spaces be the spaces that they were meant to be, and that was spaces for all. That's all I have for now. If you have any questions, I'm willing to entertain.
Sure. Before I ask for questions from the board members, I want to give Juan the opportunity to introduce himself and to say where he's from. So Juan, if you're on with us?
Hello everyone, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Gonzalo Ramirez. I live in Boston South End. So I'm sorry for the interruption, and thank you for your understanding, everyone.
Great. Do we have any questions for the commissioner from the board members?
It's a new format, right?
Yeah, definitely. I know the commissioner, it looks like, has a question or a comment.
Olivia has it.
Olivia as well.
You're on mute, Kristen. You're on mute.
Mine's a really quick question, I think. So Will, the center's going to be open this summer as cooling sites. I know we have some hot weather coming up.
I couldn't hear you, Kristen. It sounds really low.
1 second.
Yeah.
I can repeat the question if we need to, but.
Yeah, can you repeat it, Jerry?
Yeah.
Sure. Commissioner Morales, Commissioner McCosh asked, are any of the sites going to be available as cooling sites? Because I know we have some hot weather coming up, particularly this weekend.
Yeah, we are actually, we put a heat emergency plan together. It runs through Boston Public, it will run through the Boston Public Health Commission. They're going to provide us with additional guidance. The thing that's very different this year is that the main attraction that people come to our spaces for the cooling sites are the actual pools. And that's been sort of the traditional piece. And I think we're going to basically wait for their additional guidance. We work with also the Office of Emergency Management, who helps supports us in around the heat emergencies. And we've already been thinking about it. We've actually bubbled up our plan a couple of weeks ago. But as you know, we are not the medical experts. and they will hopefully guide us about what number, how we should lay out our spaces that are differently, because before people can just come in, sit anywhere, we can't sit anywhere, because if we populate an area that the next day there's going to be a program, we might have to close the program for 48 hours until things get disinfected and cleaned. And these are the extra steps and the precautions we have to take. And at the same time, as individuals are coming in, we have to log who's been in the building. God forbid, if there's an exposure, we have to make sure that we can provide as much information possible to the Boston Public Health Commission and their tracking nurses, so that this way anybody might have been in the immediate area, might have come in contact with the individual, can then hopefully be contacted and made aware, and then hopefully allow them to understand that they might have to quarantine or isolate themselves. And this is sort of the new reality that we're dealing with as we do this. And we're hoping that, BPL might help with cooling, that there might be other opportunities too as well with some other departments. But, we will continue to play that role as we traditionally have. But it's just going to be a very different structure to it with a very different capacity.
Thank you. I know Olivia has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. On Camp Jewel, have you thought about setting up these virtual experiences for kids?
Olivia, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, it's hard.
On Camp Joy, have you thought about setting up some virtual experiences for the kids?
Yeah.
Like sing-alongs, things like that are...
Yeah, one of the things we did this year is because some of the Camp Joy kids that we have are from the Boston Public School systems. We were able to work with Boston Public Schools and direct the parents to their program, because they went really stronger with virtual this year, and we're able to make the connection. You can understand that what about BCYF? We did not at that time ever plan that we ever were going to need the virtual technology, and it's now that we're getting the virtual technology. So it's really hard for us to plan at that time. We know that now, as we're making these investments, it's for us to think about how do we continue to now have it in place as we move forward. But at the moment, when parents were looking for the option, the great thing about BPS is that BPS has its programming, but they can't serve everyone. They're also limited to a certain number. But when you can go virtual, you can actually serve more. And we were able to make a cross-reference and connect the dots and see that children that were coming to us were already in the Boston Public School system. It's just that it's sort of a program that's designed by sort of an invitation or lottery system. Not sure how their structure is, but because of the fact that they are able to expand because of the virtual, we were able to make that connection. We hope that as we put ours in place, that hopefully in the fall we can start thinking about when we do the year-round Saturday program, that it would be a virtual capacity to do so. But we didn't realize that. I mean, I had to invest in my own desktop stuff because it was just we didn't have it. Now we do.
Thanks. Elizabeth has a question.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. Two things. One, picking up on what Olivia was saying, I think the WBUR radio station is their version of doing things that are virtual is, I think that then they'll, if some of it is project oriented or that participants create something of one kind or another, that then there'd be a place to where it could be viewed. And so even if it wasn't in addition to real-time things like a virtual sing-along, that might be another opportunity, even with more limited virtual sources, to have something of that nature, since people like to be able to look at work they've done or see what other people are doing. And then separately, I wondered that I know that there's been a lot of concern about some children with certain kinds of special needs and how the COVID circumstances are particularly difficult for them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if that is something that is different from your purview, or how that relates to the kinds of programming and your workarounds, what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think what we were trying to accomplish is that, one of the things that we couldn't do this year is traditional summer camps are normally out.
Right.
That's not only us, it's across the board, just because of the simple fact that they couldn't be laid out in a way that and guaranteed that, no one would get exposed or come in contact with someone who might be positive. So it's totally a brand new world for all of us as we're learning. Even when we decided to go live with our registration, we were amazed about the response we got, because we were expecting a much lower response. There was this gray cloud out there that parents might not feel comfortable bringing their children back into a gathering space. And part of that is because you do have families in where there is a grandmother or there is a grandfather or there is someone who deals with a health issue living at home. And you don't want to send little Susie out, but Susie's first common thing that she does is, I want to hug grandma, or I want to hug that family member, right?
Oh,
And-
understood. I understood.
So it's been a sort of a learning process, because no one had a blueprint for this. There wasn't a roadmap. I mean, both Commissioner McCosh and Shay can tell you, we've spent a lot of mornings discussing, how we're going to maneuver this to the best of our abilities. And then, of course, knowing that children, by nature, by default, it's a population that you kind of want to give the extra care to, right? Because you just don't know what you may get. You may get a young boy who might be dealing with trauma and going through some stuff. One moment, you may get another kid who is chipper and dipper and is willing to go with the flow. So you have to adapt to where the children are with their own developmental needs. And so it's been a process for us, because it's been one that we do something and then we quickly assess it to figure out how do we learn from it and what do we keep and what do we need to change to continue to adapt. And it was really tough, because these kids, a lot of them just came off almost 3 months of virtual schooling.
Yeah.
So you say virtual to them, their heads want to explode. Now they want to play. They want to be children. And we have to structure the play and structure the activities in where they will be safe, and to make sure that the staff are safe in delivering it too as well. So it's been an exhausting process, but it's one that we know that this is our current new reality. And until we are able to manage this, and there's a vaccine and things are going to, the doctors and the scientists in the world are able to nip this in the bud, we're going to have to work our butts off to make sure that we can try to do what we can with what we have. But as we run through this process, how do we begin to also expand it to other populations from the learning that we're processing now, to ensure that we can make sure that our spaces do include everyone and anyone who wants to do something.
Yeah, well, I think that the elements of creativity and innovation, and perhaps even just as Commissioner McCosh has her counterparts in other parts of the country, I don't know if anyone has, just as a going forward, not to take up more time for our meeting, but I don't know if your counterparts in other cities have come up with some innovative ways to handle it.
Yeah. The funny thing about counterparts in our across is that we're probably unique. There aren't too many cities that run 36 community centers. There are not too many cities that have the structure that we have for youth and families. A lot of them, if they do it, it's really under the guise of a Parks and Recreation. And as you know, we have a Parks and Recreation department. And so that they actually live in there. And if they have a community center is tied to a Parks and Rec with very limited hours, very structured things that they do. And if they do, it's probably 2 or 3 centers have 36 that are in every corner and nook in the city of Boston. And we're like that because one of the great things about being in the city is that we're a city that speaks up when it needs something. And 40 years ago, a bunch of residents spoke up and saw school buildings that were closed and say, hey, we need something for our community to make sure that there's an accessibility to the resources inside the school in regards to classrooms, gyms, and pools, and how do we use them. And it's been standing all this time. So, you know, it's tough because I've reached out to other counterparts, but a lot of the conversations felt much better for them to have with Parks and Recs than actually have with BCYF.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
Great. I know Wesley has a question.
Sure.
Can you hear the interpreter?
Yeah.
You can hear the interpreter. Okay, go ahead. Okay, yeah, I actually have two follow-up questions. One of them is for Commissioner Gosh. It said something about the cooling spaces. I heard you say something about pools.
Yep.
And I'm not really sure. I'm kind of surprised. I thought that pools were not supposed to be open
Yep.
quite yet.
No, I get clear.
Yes,
Yep.
and I understand that when they do open, we need to prepare to have, and we have a heat emergency, we need to provide for that. But I'm just wondering about how that's going to work because I'm sure that there's a plan for some social distancing behavior to obviously happen in those spaces. But I'm just concerned because I know that there are many cities that have outdoor pools under DCYF, of course. There are lots of these cooling spaces that are sometimes not as accessible for people who might use a wheelchair. And so I'm not sure what the planning is for ADA compliance in some of these cooling spaces. So I'm just wondering about what that looks like. You've got the social distancing requirement, you've got the requirements under the ADA, and then you need to provide cooling spaces for heat emergency.
Yep. Well, you're correct. The pools are not, the only pools that are open to the public, and it's really by a reservation system that's really the state is guiding because like I said, we have to know everyone who's coming into the facility because of a potential positive or exposure. We have to provide as much information as we can so that the trackers, the health trackers, are able to find who the individuals are and inform them because the one thing we don't want to do is have anybody not being informed and then it continues to create the ripple effect or the domino effect and it's passed on. The indoor pools right now are only limitedly restricted for the use of programming, youth programming that's in our building. That's what the state has told us. Part of it is because the locker rooms are not available. You know, there's a lot of humidity in the locker rooms. They have a lot of concerns. So the kids will actually walk on the deck with their shorts and go in the pool. I don't think we have used the pools yet at this moment, but the indoor pools are really restricted from general public use, only for program use. Our two outdoor pools will be available and open for next week. Hopefully, if everything runs well, part of what we were waiting for is that the state itself was wondering if they were going to open their outdoor pools or not. And then there becomes an issue of equity in regards to it. If we decided to say we open our two outdoor pools, then you have Charlestown and the North End as the only two neighborhoods that would have access. We depend on the state to open up the Hyde Park, which serves Hyde Park, Mattapan, and Rosendale. We depend on the Coolidge Corner site to serve Brighton and Alston. And we depend, of course, on the Martin Luther King Boulevard, Alina Cass Pool to serve Roxbury, Dorchester, and some other neighborhoods. It would have become an issue of it not being equitable and accessible to all because even if with our two outdoor pools, we won't be able to serve everyone in the city. One of the benefits that we do have is that the fact that we are a coastal city, there's access to beaches, which is great, makes it. I think that Parks and Rec has done a wonderful job in making investments in the last couple of years on their spray parks, which are great to help support with additional cooling. But when it comes to now the indoor cooling centers, it's really more people coming in and enjoying the air conditioning, not so much the aquatic aspect of it that once existed under normal situations.
Thank you. I know Ducia had a question.
Yes, hello, thank you very much for your presentation. I think somebody, maybe Olivia already asked, I'm not sure. However, I just wanted to piggyback. While I was listening to you, I was thinking about situations that I've been going through with my classes via Zoom, and I also have to think about an acquaintance of mine that has kids, and I want to double check. Do you have like counselors or people who are able to have like a Zoom conversation with these kids at their home just to say, hi, how you doing? Just offer them more mental or support. Thank you.
Yeah, we have over 500 13 and 14-year-olds that are engaged daily because they're part of a program called Super Teens. And those young people are a spectrum of young people. And normally those are the kids who are too old for camp, but they're still too young for summer jobs. And they're at the most vulnerable point of their lives, right? Think about being that 13-year-old, body's changing, puberty, you're trying to figure out who you're gonna be. And if you're not in the right place, you will get the wrong information. And if we don't intentionally mentor that, those with ill intentions will. And so I'm glad that that program typically on an operating year served about 260, 280 kids. The fact that because of the virtual component, we were able to expand it to 500. Out of those 500 kids, they're all going to get stipends at the end of the summer for going through this pre-employment, pre-exploratory program that helps them figure out what kind of teenagers they want to be, but most importantly, what kind of working teenagers they're going to be. So their attitude, their attire, and their attendance is all discussed now. By the time they turn 15, they'll get a nice sort of jump into the Division of Youth Employment and Engagement with a job because they met this prerequisite of doing this program for about 2 years. And it makes it much better. We also have other programs that are virtual, that are employment programs. We have gender-specific programs that are also exploring the issues. And, and of course, we have programs, and not so much programs, but some virtual discussions to talk about not only where are we with COVID, but where our nation is as a nation. Understanding that our young people are seeing Black Lives Matter for what it is, understanding that our children just witnessed another Black male, unfortunately lose his life at the hands of a police officer, and then making sure that we can have some healthy discussions in regards to how they channel what they feel into constructive and positive action, and not get swooped by anybody else's mentality to think about it that has to be destructive. And so we have this, in that pocket, we have about 800 young people that are living in that virtual space now. And then in person, I think for this week, we had about 352 kids that had registered as of yesterday at 2 o'clock. It doesn't mean that now those numbers have changed, because as parents are becoming more aware of the in-person opportunities, they are registering more for them. But like I said, we've been pleasantly surprised, because we really thought the numbers would have been lower, just because, like I said, there was this gray area of where the parent, who's the consumer, face in anything that's out there, right? Having their children come into our spaces. But we know that what we're learning with the children can easily apply to seniors, can easily apply to other populations, and we want to be able to make that work. You got to understand something very unique about BCYF. Everything we do in partnership. We're centers of partnerships. The sad reality this year is that our partners did not have the confidence this year to run the programming that they traditionally support us in. And so they themselves have taken a step back, so they can set themselves up for one hell of a comeback. Because the reality is that sometimes our partner are not as resource rich as some other organizations. And so, you know, they have small boards, they have small funding. The work that they do has big impact. But, you know, the reality is that they also don't want to put themselves or anybody at risk and face any liabilities. And then, you know, and then the organization's gone. And we all know already, look at the damage that COVID itself did just on corporate entities who've had to close their doors, and small businesses who've had to close their doors. You know, a small nonprofit that does meaningful work with targeted population has to take a very cautious approach. So this year, for the first time, all the programming that we're running is run by BCYF staff. And in a good year, last year, let's say, for example, we have about 400 staff, and we probably have 600 individuals who are made up by different partnerships that are in our building supporting us, monitoring and delivering programming. This year, they're at, and so it's, you know, we've had to put a lot of weight on our shoulders this year to do what we can, what we have, and to do it in a very safe manner.
Can I just add one thing? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I know a few of you board members had asked and made suggestions for Commissioner Morales about like things the staff can do, but I just have to say, just when I work with them frequently, the staff is so experienced, so well trained. I mean, I'm sure they do all the things that you're suggesting because they really know what they're doing. He has an excellent staff who are so child oriented, and I know for a fact they go the extra mile for every kid that's in the program, even especially kids with disabilities. So those are all great suggestions. A lot of them, I know those staff as well. So just wanted to give you a shout out.
Thank you.
That's great. I know we should move on, but I know Juan has a question.
Yeah, very briefly. Thank you, William, for sharing all these efforts.
Sure.
I just have a quick curiosity regarding, for example, membership card for any individual who wants to be part of the BCYF, or for those who already have it itself. Say we want to renew the membership. Under these circumstances of COVID, what's going to be the process for that? Because typically it was, for example, getting, I think, a money order and then submitting your membership again in a form. So perhaps sometimes these are opportunities where we can change also the way how we do some documentation online, and especially since we're mentioning that it's important to track who is going to be present or not, depending on, I don't know, whether they had COVID, for example, right? We want to have information on all these people who want to use the facilities. But perhaps, are there any thoughts about how membership cards are going to be provided to people, and the process perhaps can avoid using money orders and, I don't know, an online platform where you can just use your credit card or by mail? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one, if it's my case, I'd rather have be free memberships. You know what I mean? And not that I'm letting any cat out of the thing. It's been presented, and who knows? It might come through. But I've always said, as a commissioner, and I've made it very public, no one better ever be turned away for their inability to pay. Give them a membership card. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure that people have access to our facilities. You know, and I think that hopefully we'll work towards being sort of a free membership based kind of organization, and that the only fees and money connected would be that Zumba class or a cooking class, because you have to pay for those specialized instructors, and the city won't give me a budget to pay somebody just to come in 1 hour a day to do a class. If that was the case, Emily and Kristen, we'll oh my God, we can think of so many things we could do, but that's not our reality. But I think that I've made it really clear in the time that I've been here that no one better be turned away with their inability to pay. I grew up in the city of Austin, and I did not grow up in the hands of BCYF. The only experience I had was one positive, was learning how to swim at the Hennigan Community Center in 78. But I could tell you in 1980, when I went to the Curtis Hall Community Center, I was told by a group of young men there who were not my complexion that I was out of place and I was chased and I was hit by a rock in the back of the head. Okay? So PCYF, it was not my place to go, but as long as I'm here, I'm gonna make sure whoever finds their way to our doors, they will be welcomed, they will be processed, they will be given the VIP treatment regardless of their ability to pay or not pay a membership. And in the time I've been here, that's what I've been doing, is assessing our sites and making sure that the one thing we can have is equity across all our sites. One site should not have more than the other, and one site should not look different than the other. If anything, the experience should be all the same, and the opportunities should be the same as we move forward. That's why I'm big on partnerships. That's why I talk to Kristen all the time about what can we do more. I talk to Emily all the time about what happened with senior. I think one of the first things I did was convert a youth center into a senior center. And boy, did I get fired for that for a year. And I still get fired for that for this year. But the reality is that, you know, my grandmother always told me, you enter your second childhood in those years, and they want to have fun. And so we want to make sure that we give them a space that they can have fun. Okay?
Yeah,
Great.
thank you, Father William. I truly appreciate it.
Commissioner, I just have a really quick closing question. So just to be clear, how many of your sites are currently open for programming? Is most of it a virtual? And have you planned to have most of the sites be back to in person at some point, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you remember, majority of our sites are in Boston Public School buildings, and our 13 standalones are all open and operating. Our 2 outdoor pools, majority of our facilities are open. There's only a few that are not open, and that's because some of them are under a construction. Rosendale is under a construction phase right now. The Curley Community Center in South Boston, Kristen's home neighborhood, is shut down for the summer. Even though it does have a gym, and in phase 3 we could have possibly thought about the gym, the reality is it's such a aged building that the air flow and quality in there would not provide a safe environment for anyone to participate in that facility. We have the Mattahunt that's down for construction too, and these were all planned capital projects that we wanted to do to make sure that we can improve our facilities, but most importantly, right, because everybody looks at us to be cooling stations, we got to get air conditioning in some of those places, and that's what some of this stuff is going to hopefully address for us. But other than that, we're operating, even though we're in summer programming, our staff is still, some of our sites still feeding sites, food distribution sites, so they're still giving food out to people as well. But you know, majority of our sites are open, but like I said, part of what we're focusing on from July 6th all the way to hopefully August 14th is youth first, and then we're going to look at what do we do to introduce adults coming after. I know next week we're going to dive into what the fall looks like, because we just got the phase 3 just recently, and so we're just finishing up planning for phase 2, and then they throw phase 3 at us really quickly. So but they're open though.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. So I have to jump off because I'm actually going on to another one of these that I'm about a few minutes late, but I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, Kristen, for inviting me. Em, I'll talk to you soon, and thank you. All right?
Bye, thanks, Will.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
And now, without further ado, we have Commissioner Emily Shea from the Age Strong Commission.
Thank you, Jerry. Hi, everybody. Good evening. And boy, Commissioner Morales is a hard act to follow. So I hope that I do okay here. But I really appreciate the invitation. I don't think I've had the chance to talk to this group before, and so it's good to get to at least hear all your names during introduction and to see you all on this Zoom call and to get to talk a little bit about what the Age Strong Commission has been doing throughout our COVID experience. So for folks that don't know the Age Strong Commission, it's formerly the Elderly Commission. We had a name change last year, and it is the city office that serves people over 60, and for our volunteer programs, people 55 and over. And we're Boston's Council on Aging, and we're also what's called an area agency on aging for Boston. And so during COVID, as you probably can imagine, and may have experienced, obviously it's been a challenging time for a lot of people, and that's no different for the folks that we kind of serve on a day-to-day basis. So one thing that happened right away for us as soon as COVID hit is our calls in the office started to increase. And so we were getting a significant amount of calls from people that were having trouble accessing food, especially people that were older and in high-risk categories and kind of had no friends and family to help them access groceries or needed Meals on Wheels because they were afraid to go out. And so the first thing that we did in my office is set up a call center. So before we used to have one receptionist answering the phone, and at the height of COVID, we were actually getting about 750 calls a week. So we set up a call center because one person can't handle all of that. And we trained our team to be able to take those calls and to assess people's needs. So at the beginning of all of that, we were just getting so many calls about food. We probably were doing about 450 food intakes, and I see Yardley nodding because his office has been taking a lot of food calls for people under 60. My office has been taking them for people over 60. But assessing a lot of people, assessing their needs. Are they calling about food? Are they calling about something else? And trying to get them help with those services. Beyond food, the things that we've been doing are, we have our Age Strong shuttle up and running. So this is free medical transportation for people over 60 in Boston. And it's able to take someone from their house to a doctor's appointment in the city and then back home. So that shuttle has been up the whole time that COVID has been running. And we've also been doing grocery shopping trips. But we've made a lot of changes to our shuttle. So in order to transport people safely, right now we only have one person on the van at a time. Where both the driver and the rider have to wear masks, and the driver's also wearing gloves if they need to kind of help someone down the stairs or help secure a wheelchair. We're making sure that we clean the vans thoroughly and that we wipe down the seats and the door handles and the armrests or anything someone might have touched in between each rider. And for a long time, a lot of doctors' visits were shut down. So we were, in the heart of COVID, what we were doing really was emergency rides. So we were doing dialysis trips, which people still had scheduled. We were doing things like radiation trips or chemotherapy trips, but most of the other services were shut down. And now those have started to reopen. And so we're starting to have more need for rides, but again, limited capacity because of the one rider per van rule at this point. And we'll assess that as we move forward and see if in some of our bigger shuttles, we might safely be able to fit 2 riders on, but we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're keeping folks safe. With the food services, I want to talk a little bit about our new food program that we just started. So we just started in Boston a program called the Emergency Feeding Program. It's a program that is partially reimbursable by FEMA. And so we haven't been getting federal assistance with the food that we've been providing before. We've had a lot of food supported by the Resiliency Fund, which has been great. That's the funds that the city set up to help pay for stuff for things related to COVID. And we had a lot of volunteers helping us. So we were packing boxes of food and we were driving them places. The RIDE was actually helping us with some delivery, and BCYF was helping us with delivery, city staff. But now a lot of people have kind of gone back to their regular work. So we were able to find this emergency feeding program and get approval. The city is paying for a piece of it, and the federal government is paying for a piece of it. What it allows us to do is continue delivery services for those people that are most in need. So it allows us to continue delivery services for people who are over 65, for people who are under 65 and at high risk, and we use kind of the CDC determination of high risk, right? Because it's a federal program. So for people at high risk for the greatest impacts to COVID, and that's, you can find that information right on their website. And then we also, because it's a federal program, we also need to screen out folks that are kind of able to actively go out and use their SNAP dollars, because you can't use two federal programs at the same time for the same things. And we also have to screen out people that are getting 2 or more meals a day from the Meals on Wheels program. And so those folks aren't eligible, but other high-risk people or people over the age of 65, which the CDC considers a high-risk category, are eligible for this feeding program. So if you know folks out there, and I should tell you one other thing, because it's limited resources, we're really only we're not trying to replace food that people have coming into their house. We know some folks have a homemaker that shops for them, or they have friends and family dropping food off. Like myself, I've been driving food over to my parents, right? So my parents wouldn't need this program. We're really trying to reserve it for people that have no other way to get food. And that way we're able to make sure that folks that need the assistance can get it. So if you know folks who are eligible, you're welcome to have them call 311. That's the way that people get kind of to all of our offices. But that's the way to access this program. Let me think. I would say that our food calls, I think as things, as we're not in the height of COVID and our numbers are coming down and things are getting a little better, there still is a safer at home advisory for people over the age of 65. The recommendation is that folks don't go out except for essential errands. So we do see a lot of the people that we typically serve and interact with still staying at home. The great thing is that we are able to provide almost all of the services that we do regularly over the phone. So we've had people calling us for a lot of assistance. Sometimes we'll get calls from people who need help setting up in-home services. They need some services and support in the home, or they may be having trouble with their PCA agency, or they may need help. They're having trouble maybe paying their bills, and you need assistance getting on SNAP or fuel assistance or help with Medicare. Those are all things that we can work with people over the phone for. So we've actually been pretty busy through this whole thing, just trying to meet the needs of our constituents. I think I'll leave it there. Well, actually, I also want to say, I know there's a big celebration coming up, ADA Day, and we are looking forward to celebrating that with you. And I really want to thank the Disability Commission and all those of you who are advising folks. We work collaboratively with you all on making sure that that our streets are walkable for everybody and accessible for everybody, and that whether you have a walker or a wheelchair, or you're on crutches, or you're you're pushing a baby carriage, that you can get where you need to go in the city of Boston. So I want to thank you all for all of your accessibility work, Mr. Markash and team, and all of you on the advisory board for the work that you do. I saw a question.
Yes, Ducia, you stole my thunder, Emily.
I meant to say, I'm turning it back over to you, Jerry.
I can sit down now, and you can run the meeting if you'd like. No, please. No. I'm kidding. Ducia has a question.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. Yes, once again, it's me, Ducia L. Thank you very much, Emily, for your presentation. I'm very grateful, actually, for what you do for the city of Boston. And I have to say, while I was listening to you, I was thinking about most of my neighbors in my apartment complex. I have neighbors. I mean, there's maybe 30% of my neighbors who are able-bodied and live normal, quote unquote, normal lives. But I have most neighbors who are either or disabled or are part of the aging population. And I'm not really quite sure how to form my question, but my concern is how do you connect with these people? How do you get the information? Like I have, for example, I have lots of neighbors who don't speak English as a first language, and some of them, like I have like an elderly couple living across from me in the hall, and I know they don't speak English as a first language, and I'm not really sure if they have relatives who can help them. So how do you connect with them, and what's the process? Like, what do you do if they don't speak English, or if they need assistance language-wise? And other concerns, my concern is, what is the definition for most needs? Like you mentioned, only those people who are high risk. I understanding that, but what about those who have most necessary? What's that definition? What's that mean? Thank you.
Sure. So thank you for those questions. So I'll actually take that last one first, because I think it was related maybe to the emergency feeding program I was talking about. I think I said that in relation to the fact that if people have other ways to get food, we don't want to be serving them through this program. We really want to save these resources for people that just don't have anybody they can reach out to ask for help. And so like if somebody's family or neighbor is already shopping for them, then we want them to continue to help that person, so that we can focus on the people that just don't have kind of any type of supports like that. Now, if something happened, like say someone's daughter was shopping for them and she had COVID, or she lived really far away, then they would certainly be, I think, more in need of assistance, right? So I think it depends. We try and look at the whole situation, but we're trying to target those that are most in need. In terms of how we're reaching people, we have lots of ways we usually reach people, but a lot of those you can't use right now because we're not seeing a lot of folks in person. So we're not going out to different senior group meetings in the community, or out to, like Will was saying, there's some senior centers. We're not going out and talking to folks at those places. But what we've been doing instead to reach people is we've actually, Mayor has been sending out robocalls to people. So we have a list of about 103 people over 60. And we use the list that Elections has from the annual census that they do. And so we have those folks that we have phone numbers for. So during the height of COVID, 2 times a week, and now like once a week, once every other week, the mayor sends out a message to that whole group. Now, we do those calls actually in 11 different languages. So if you don't speak English, you can sign up for the call in a different language. And then you get, you know, a Spanish version of the message or a Chinese version of the message. And so that is one of the main things we've been doing right now to get the word out. In addition, we have a magazine called Seniority Magazine. I don't know if folks have seen it around. We typically get that magazine out in about 300 different community locations. So it's in city buildings, it's in libraries, it's in community centers, grocery stores. Obviously, a lot of the places we usually drop it are not open. And additionally, the people who usually read it really aren't going out too much. And so what we did for our last issue of Seniority Magazine is we actually mailed it to people's homes. So we spent some extra money and we mailed it out to all the folks that we had addresses for, which turned out to be about 94,000 addresses. And we did our very first ever magazine. It was all COVID related information. And for the first time ever, we actually did it in 7 languages. So we did 4 pages of English, 4 pages of Spanish, 4 pages of Chinese, 4 pages of Haitian Creole, and so on down the line in kind of the top languages that older adults speak in Boston. So I don't know how much we'll be able to continue doing, doing that because just because it's expensive to mail to someone's home and we don't have a lot of budget money for that. But I think we'll see as things progress. We may do one more mail to people's homes, and then we'll see how we proceed down the line. But we are trying to really figure out how we best communicate with folks during this time.
Great. I know Elizabeth has a question.
Yes, Elizabeth Jean Clower. Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering if Aging Strong is involved in distribution of some PPE, masks and gloves that I know with the supermarkets having senior hour and that kind of thing. Is that in one of the needs that you're addressing?
Yeah, so at the very beginning of COVID, we actually were able to, the mayor got some masks that we distributed to senior buildings. And one of the reasons for that is because we were trying to address in the way that the spread within those congregate setting sites, right? Because as people go out to their mailboxes and they live in apartment buildings, we were trying just to kind of prevent that spread somewhat. Now, since then, we haven't had access to PPE that we're able to share with the public, but we are working with our purchasing department. We are actually hoping to purchase some reusable masks. And so as we go down the line, we're hoping that we'll have access to some reusable masks that we're able to give to people who reach out to us. But as of right now, we don't have access to those. I will say, I will add to that we do have some, obviously, that our staff are using to keep them safe during those things, during these times. And so, for example, if somebody comes to get onto our shuttle, but they're not wearing PPE, we make sure that we're able to give them PPE so that both the rider and the shuttle driver can be safe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Do we have any other questions from the commission members?
All right.
Hearing none. Do we have any questions from members of the public before we let you go, Commissioner?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead. Can you say who you are, please?
Yes, my name is Dolores Donahue. I'm Commissioner McClosh's mother. And I'd like to tell you that I receive those robocalls because I'm a senior citizen and I'm always very happy to get them. because they're so informative. They tell us where we can go for help if we need it. And they give us a list of resources, and sometimes they're a warning about the weather. I'm just very glad to receive them. They really are helpful.
I'm really glad to hear that. I appreciate, it's always good when we get feedback, and I love meeting Commissioner McCosh's mom. This is great.
Thank you. And it's nice to meet you too. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to second that, Commissioner Shea. I know a former PCA of mine has availed themselves of some of your food delivery services, and it's been a very big help to her and her family. So I really appreciate all you're doing. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Please feel free to send anyone our way that you see that you think needs assistance. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Hello?
Thank you.
Oh,
Could I
Paul.
yes, I'd like to make a comment to the commissioner's mother, and what an awesome job that Commissioner McCosh does leading us. And it's a real privilege to serve on the board. And she did an outstanding job the other day with Mayor Walsh at the City Hall, landmark City Hall Plaza renovation. I don't know if you heard all that.
Thank you. I'm very proud of her. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Paul, and I'm sure she's blushing right now, right? Yeah. Commissioner?
No need to blush, I'm just being honest.
I didn't pay
It's a
Paul
real
off, I
privilege to
promise.
serve with all you guys.
Thank you, Paul. You as well.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda is the chair's report, and my report will be really brief. I was hoping that you guys could have a better view of me, and you could see that I, like Jessica, am wearing the ADA 30th anniversary T-shirt. I hope that everyone on the board, has signed up and either received their T-shirt or will be receiving their T-shirt shortly. And I hope all of you, or as many of you as can, will join us for the virtual event next Wednesday. I believe it starts at 1 o'clock. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Great.
I realized I could speak up. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm sure the commissioner and Jessica will have more to say about the event during the commissioner's report. But again, I just want to encourage everybody who can to participate, and particularly to get a T-shirt if you haven't already, and avail yourselves of the social media sites to post yourself wearing the T-shirt. I haven't done that yet. I saw Olivia posted at a T-stop, and that was a great photo of her. And so again, I'm just encourage everyone to participate in whatever way they feel comfortable. And one way would be to join us for the virtual meeting on Wednesday. And the only other thing that I had is I was listening to public radio earlier today, and the commissioner's office actually got a shout out on the Boston Public Radio program with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. They had a food writer on, which is one of their regular contributors. They have a food writer on every week, and he mentioned the accessible and portable ramp program, and he thought that's a godsend to independent restaurants in particular, and folks that are setting up new outdoor patio spaces and whatnot. And he particularly mentioned the commissioner and her team, and it made me feel really good that I too am part of the board, and it just shows that we don't just talk about things here, we actually do get stuff done. I know sometimes, City Hall runs slowly, But again, here's a program that's really having a meaningful impact. And, you know, he mentioned that it's really allowing restaurants to be able to ramp up and stay in business. So thank you to the commissioner and her staff for that. And I'm glad we were able to get that shout out. But with that said, that's all of my report at this point. So we'll move right into the commissioner's report.
Thanks, Jerry. Elizabeth, did you have a question for Jerry? You're on mute. You're on mute.
She's probably trying to reconnect.
Okay, I can go ahead then. You can
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay, a few updates. Thank you all for the kind words. I appreciate it. But as I say to my team all the time, they all make me look good because I kind of have the overarching vision, but they do so much of the groundwork. And I really, I couldn't have hired 6 better staff. If I had, if they had been given to me and saying, these are your perfect staff members, they're all so good at their jobs. So shout out to all my staff. So if any of you get our newsletter, our email newsletter, you will know that this week is National Voter Registration Week. So if you're not signed up to vote, please sign up to vote. And a few developments on the voting front this year is that the governor passed a bill that allows people to vote by mail. So you don't actually have to leave your home. You don't have to get an absentee ballot. You can download a ballot and vote by mail. So that will also help to reduce crowd sizes at the polling places because we don't want that to be a hot spot, spread the virus around. But we still want people to be able to vote. And this year is a presidential election, so that means we have early voting. So look for announcements from the city coming out in August for the primary and then in October for the general election. And one thing Jessica let me know today, which we were both surprised about, but is still true, is that there is still a recommended curfew in the state of Massachusetts.
In the city of Boston specifically.
In the city of Boston, okay.
Yep.
Thought it was the state. So yeah, so Mayor Walsh is recommending a curfew. I believe it's 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it's not that they're so much enforcing it, but really just recommending people stay in during those hours. And the reason I bring it up is because Commissioner Shea talked about the safer at home order, which is a change from the stay at home, because for a long time we were advised to stay at home. But I know things are reopening and people may feel that the virus is gone, but we don't want you to have a false sense of security, because just because things are reopening, we still want everybody to stay safe. So just keep those things in mind as you do start to go. Okay, a few other things. As Paul mentioned, we had the groundbreaking for City Hall Plaza last Friday. It was a very nice ceremony. The mayor was there, Chief Brophy was there, a lot of people who've worked on the project. It was just a ceremonial mound of dirt, and I have a commemorative shovel, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
The work itself is not commemorative at all. The work is ongoing. I mean, they have so much ripped up already. So they're moving along with the plaza, which is great news for us. So I haven't made any progress on the agreement yet, property with the Public Facilities Department, only because I haven't followed up. I've just been super busy, but I will try to do that for the next board meeting. So that will still be an open agenda item, which I will promise to get to before the next meeting. Okay, just another update on the ramp reopening project. So far, we've distributed 15 ramps. We have 10 left in stock, but as of Friday, we'll have 150. Getting a big delivery on Friday. So we're gonna make a big push to get the information out to restaurants and make sure they come and pick them up, because like Jerry said, that the person on radio mentioned, this is a help to restaurants where they don't have to pay for it. So, come on down, get the ramp. If you go to any restaurant and you see that they don't have a ramp, tell them to give our office a call or send us an email. Disability, actually send them to ada@boston.gov. We can give them information about the ramp. A few other things, just some meetings that I'd like to let you know about. Tomorrow night, there's a public art meeting for the Northern Ave Bridge. The new bridge is going up over the Fort Point Channel. They're doing some public art on that, so it's a public meeting to weigh in on the artwork that's gonna go on the bridge. We can email you out the link. I don't have it with me right now, but if anyone's interested, it's tomorrow night from 7 to 8. And it's free. Also, next Monday, or this coming Monday, July 20th, the Mass Office on Disability is having a forum for disability commissions across the state. It will be a virtual forum, and you can sign up beforehand if you're interested. I got the invitation because I'm listed as the commissioner. Jerry, I don't know, do you get any emails?
I haven't got any
Okay.
official documentation, no.
I still have to give them your name as the chairperson.
Okay.
I don't know. I know Carl was getting them for a while. I don't know if he still gets them, but they may just not have your contact info.
Sure.
So, Jessica, is that the Northern Average link?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica just put a link to the Northern Average event. But anyway, next Monday, if you're interested, it's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And it's just a chance for anyone who serves on a disability commission in the state to come to a meeting and probably talk about relevant issues that we're all working on. So I can send you the information about that.
Yeah, I know I probably won't be able to come, but if anybody who's not working can make it, I think it sounds like a great opportunity, so.
Great. And then just two other things quickly. Next Wednesday, as Jerry mentioned, is our ADA 30 Boston event. It's going to be a virtual rally to shout out about disability rights and make our statements on equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's going to be a 3-person panel discussion. It's going to be Judy Heumann, who's a national disability advocate. It's going to be Portland Towns, who works at PCIL, and Sandy Ho, who's involved with the Laurie Institute at Brandeis University. And they're all great disability advocates. So they're going to be talking about different topics, looking back, looking forward, and talking about current events that we're all concerned about as far as civil rights. So it's a don't miss event. I hope you'll all be there. We're really excited about it, and we hope we get a lot of participation. The only other thing I wanted to close out with is, Jerry, I didn't know if you had any updates about the ride. I know that probably most of you know, and Elizabeth mentioned that they're on strike. I did follow up with the management at the ride to find out any pertinent information. They are, trying to work things out. There is no updates as of today. I talked to them earlier about 4 o'clock. So I don't know if you have any.
Right, no, I would have mentioned it. I would have mentioned in my report if I thought I had something that would be helpful. I know that it's just one contractor, so the ride is still operating. The same day that the work stoppage happened, actually, my girlfriend who uses the ride had a ride. She was very, concerned about her ability to get the ride and whatnot, and that still worked out fine. Again, I haven't heard about any progress, whether the work stoppage is still ongoing. I'm assuming that it still is, actually. I'm assuming that I would have heard if it stopped. But the an additional bad thing in terms of, some people not being able to get rides because of the work stoppage is that they, as a result of COVID, they were limiting the amount of people on the vans to one rider per trip. And now, because of the work stoppage and the loss of available vans, they have posted on the T website that they are going to implement again multiple person rides. So that is.
Sorry, Jerry. Elizabeth, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted you to know in case you were trying to call in. We can hear you.
Yeah, I was trying to call in.
Yeah, we can hear and see you.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Sorry.
So Jerry, they did say that they were going to limit it to 2 people per vehicle.
Oh, that's good.
It won't be more than that. But they did tell me that the service was a little impacted Monday. But other than that, they're working behind the scenes very diligently to make sure that it's not impacted moving forward. And they haven't heard of many impacts at this point. So they are working to try to settle it, but just wanted to let the board know that we know about it and we're paying attention to it, and we'll help in any way that we can.
Yes, and thank you for your efforts on that. And again, if I have any information, I can certainly try to get it to the commissioner, and they can get it out to everybody too. So, but Elizabeth, did you have a question either for me or for the commissioner?
Yes, for both of you. And my apology both to the board and to any members of the public that I ran into a couple of technical glitches.
No
But
problem.
I was able to hear the rest of the meeting as it was proceeding, but I just, it just took a little while to be back participating. Jerry, going back to the ADA event, which, like you, I certainly hope that many people will be able to participate. Either the commissioner, Jessica, Jerry, whoever wants to take this, that if people wanted to know a little bit more what to expect this year, other years where there's been a keynote speaker, I mean, there will be Judy Heumann, but in the virtual format, just if people wanted to have a sense of a relative time frame, or that kind of any other additional information.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm not sure what the question was though, like how they would find that out.
But yeah, no, just if people, because it's not in person, just do people, does the community have sufficient information on how to participate?
Okay. Well, we've started to ramp up the advertising for it and the messaging. I know BCIL put out an email today. We saw that, and we've been doing social media. We'll continue to do that. Mayor Walsh actually filmed a little video, 2-minute video to promote the event. Jessica, has that gone out yet?
So the mayor released his video yesterday. BCIL either has or is going to release the video with Governor Baker. We have a couple hundred people already registered for the event. Already, we have distributed over 1,000 t-shirts. So everyone who had those t-shirts also have information on the event, which is twice as many people as we ever distribute t-shirts to when we have the in-person event. In the comments, I have put the link to register for the ADA event and a link to our Facebook event. That has gone out to our entire distribution list as well as the entire distribution list of BCIL. And so I think that we, not to put down all of our efforts previously, I think that probably the public knows about this year's event more than they have any other year. So we have done extensive outreach to the community and to different, there are, I think, 30 or 40 different sponsor organizations that have signed on and are pushing out the information as well. There are press releases that are going out that are handled by Spalding, as well as BCIL. And so extensive work has been done to get the information out. Everybody who got a shirt has now been contacted to say that your shirt wasn't an automatic registration and to register for the event as well, and to give that link also.
That being said, we would love it if our board members would get the word out to your circles and your contacts. You know, that's really what we hope your purpose will be. A big part of your purpose, other than advocacy, is to take the information that you learn in these meetings and share them with your neighborhoods, your contact lists, your circles, and let everybody know to come in and join the event.
Jessica, can you email these links as well? Because I don't want it to get lost once the meeting ends.
Of course, Jerry.
Thank you.
And then I had an additional question or comment.
Go ahead.
This dovetails between both the chair's report and the commissioner's report. That a couple of issues that with the ride, that's helpful to know that its impact was not felt as significantly, but the whole way that came about from a client perspective is that the word went out Friday evening at 5 p.m. that there would be a disruption. They were calling it a stoppage that night. And then the next day it became evident on the some of the stations that, the local news that was carrying it, that it was a strike. And I think it's disconcerting to hear, because for those who might not be familiar, that the issue for one of the vendors was that they were increasing the health insurance for the drivers. And that's what the drivers were upset about, because as essential workers who have been on the front lines helping people with transportation, that as I understand it, that's their grievance. That's what prompted the strike. So I hope that it does get a resolution soon, because I think that they have requested of clients to limit their ride requests to essential trips only, and that it would be a shared ride, which, given the vulnerability of the population, sometimes on a couple of fronts, I know it was going to need to move back towards the model that pre-COVID, that the ride was a shared system with multiple passengers. And I knew they were moving towards that, but I think that that is disconcerting for people from a client perspective, for people who, given this type of circumstance, wouldn't have had forewarning, and just the element of uncertainty and needing to try to put off essential appointments. So I think hearing updates will be very helpful as they're available, because the way, just as a consumer, I was finding out about it is the message went out today, the automated message from the ride, that it is, they are continuing the service, but they are still making on a daily basis the request that people take that into account and limit unnecessary, or, they might not be literally saying now essential trips, but it's language to that effect, and to expect delays. So if the reality is that there haven't been a lot of delays, that's great, but I think that is a message that people are hearing.
Yeah,
So-
Elizabeth, the things I can tell you is that the T itself, they didn't get a lot of notice about the strike. So as soon as they got the notice, they let customers know. And
Okay.
they've done a really diligent job to repeat the message to customers. Like, they've sent out several messages just to let everybody know. I agree that it's not ideal to have to share a trip, but I mean, in some ways it's a business and it's out of their hands. Things with negotiations about healthcare and salary. I mean, potentially it could have been salary rates, but not healthcare benefits. So, those are things that are in some ways out of the control of, they're just, they're business decisions. Sometimes,
Oh, sure.
They affect the thing. So all I would say is there are two sides to every story. So we don't know the details, but we do know that the T is working very hard behind the scenes to try to ensure that service is still on schedule, on time, not affected.
Sure, and again,
Hopefully it won't last that long.
if I hear of anything, of course, I would let anyone know, but I haven't heard any more than what the commissioner and what Elizabeth have shared. And I just know, like I said, from personal experience, that the trip my girlfriend took, it wasn't impacted because of it. And I hope that as few people as possible are impacted. And I hope that they limit the shared rides, and folks that can have individual rides, do that. I don't think it's guaranteeing everybody would have to share the van. It depends on, where you're going and things like that. But if I get any updates, again, I'll certainly share them with the commissioner's office. So.
That's helpful, Commissioner, to be reminded of. I hope I didn't overly state the one side of that, but it just, because that is what the news was reporting, was the reason that the workers were visually seen out striking. I thought it would be helpful for people to be aware that that was the information provided, but I would agree. I would say that there have been regular updates, almost daily, I think daily updates to clients So I think that all of that is positive. And along with the other shout outs to you, Commissioner, that we've been hearing during the course of the meeting, I believe it might have been a separate press conference that Mayor Walsh described you as an unsung hero. I think that might have been a different set of circumstances, but certainly.
I think that was about the ramps. Yeah, we've had a lot of things that we've been working on lately.
Oh, yeah.
We've been in the
That's
spotlight.
great.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
That's great.
that's it. Yep, for me. Thank you.
Great. Moving right along, I think under old business, we were going to hear about the plaza renovation updates, but I think the commissioner handled that during her report. And kudos to anyone and everyone who was able to participate in the groundbreaking. I wasn't able to attend. I wish I would have been able to, but I know the commissioner will keep us updated, and if there's other opportunities, as Chief Brophy mentioned, to have us take a look at the project, I'm sure we'll get invited and whatnot to do that. Do I hear any new business?
I think Wesley.
Wesley here.
Yeah.
I do have something to add for new business. If we could just go back to old business for one moment.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it was an old action item that we had before or a new category, but I did want to bring it up.
Sure.
About captioning and accessibility for public places. I understand that it's an issue that we've been talking about in the past. And I know with the distractions we've had with COVID-19, we've had other priorities, but I would like to re-mention that and bring that up to the table again to see if we can take some actions moving forward.
Remind us again, Wesley, what the item is about?
It's related to captions and accessibility in public places. My understanding was that the plan was to have the commissioner look into this, and I believe that was with the city council that this was going to happen. But I was just wondering if there's any updates related to captioning in open public spaces.
Yes, I remember the request very well, Wesley. Thank you for bringing it up again. I have not done that yet. I'm going to ask Jessica to keep it on my radar because Jessica is so good at that. She's really good at her job. But I will say that Jessica reached out to the Parks Department about the movies, the drive-in movie series that the city is putting on this summer. And she was able to request captions and the Parks Department complied. So I believe, is that going to be on all the movies, Jessica?
Yes, it will be on all the movies. Excuse me, sorry. It will be on all the movies, I believe starting today. And they had a screening at 10 a.m. for seniors this morning. And so they had captions on it, and I believe that they will have captions on all of them. I will be able to double check at 8:30 this evening while I watch Jurassic Park from the BCEC at the drive-in. Unfortunately, it is a positive that they have captions. The unfortunate thing is the tickets or the spaces sold out within hours of the announcement of the drive-in movies happening. So for anybody who wanted to go captions or not, they had to get their tickets within the first, I think 3 or 4 hours when I spoke to the Parks Department.
Wow.
In order to get them. I know that there are a lot of other drive-in movies that are happening at different places. And if there is anything that our office can do to help advocate to those organizations to get captions, please let us know.
Yes, and I do know that you specifically mentioned bars and restaurants, TVs in public places. So again, I offer my apologies for not having followed up on it. And it's not that I'm not prioritizing it, it's just that we've just been so extremely busy, and I don't want to make that as an excuse. But like I said, I will ask Jessica to keep reminding me of it, and try to at least make some progress before our next meeting.
Is there something that I, as the commissioner, as the chair, or the board can do to support you on that as well, Commissioner?
I mean, I really think that going through the city council is a great idea, and we know a couple of councilors who really support our work. So,
Sure.
I mean, I have a feeling that they would really love the idea and support it. So I think it's just a matter of contacting them and telling them that the board is requesting this, or the board, and then connecting to us. We have to go through an internal department to do that. So that would be the first step for us to go to our intergovernmental relations department. From there, we could connect with the city council and see if they would take it up for a hearing.
Commissioner, could I actually make a recommendation that I believe would help move the issue along?
Please do.
And that is that if the board wanted to write a letter to the city council, we could present that to the city councilors. So if the board collectively, I don't know if Jerry and Wes, and maybe, I know this is an issue that Carl's talked about too.
Yes, this is Wes. I would definitely be in support of that.
If the three of you or whoever wanted to write a letter collectively, and we could help edit it, and we could work with intergovernmental relations to submit it. But I think that would be a great first step to bring attention to it.
Did the board ever take a vote on this issue?
I don't think so.
You could make a motion to write a letter if you are so interested.
This is Carl, I make that motion.
Do I have any seconds?
Second.
Seconded by Wesley.
Could someone just state how that would be?
So this is Carl, we are recommending that the commission, and since Jessica volunteered me, Wesley, and I believe Jerry, maybe the three of us could over email write a letter to then have the commissioner's office edit and then send on to the
City Council.
Yeah.
But how would you describe the topic aspect?
Well, the topic would be creating a regulation that asks all public places to turn on captions, just like they do in Pawtucket and Seattle and other places. So there is precedent for this.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's excellent. I think we could all support that.
Yes, and this is Wesley. Some other cities also have this regulation in place.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? The motion carries unanimously, I believe.
Thank you, Wes.
So
this is Carl. I will try to start off with a rough draft of the letter, and then I'll send it to Jerry and Wesley.
you have my email, Carl, yes?
If not, I will get it.
Okay, I can give it to you as well, so.
No, I don't need it right now. I'm pretty sure I have it.
All right, no problem.
You all have all of your emails, because they are all on all of the emails that you all get sent from me. You're all there.
Okay.
Whether you want to be or not.
Any other new business or new action items?
Jessica, did you say you had something to bring up?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Elizabeth,
Unless-
did you? Question?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Did we hear back from Commissioner Brophy about language for going forward for I'm trying to remember the proper terminology for,
You might have missed it with your connection.
oh, I think I did.
The
Yeah.
commissioner said during her report that she hasn't had the opportunity to follow up with Chief Brophy's office to write that specific language about the follow-up. But she hopes to have something for us to vote on possibly next meeting. So,
Great, thanks, that is what happened.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth.
any other new business or new action items? Carol, do you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, I have a motion I want to make, but is it time to make it?
I don't think we're quite there. I don't think we're quite there yet, but.
Okay.
Any input from any members of the public? Either on this or anything that we brought up or anything different? Hearing none, now I think, Carl, you can go ahead and make your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Any second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. See everyone next week on ADA Day.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.